Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. I hope all of you are doing well. In this explanation video, we are going to focus on this poem called The Glove and the Lions. It's quite a fascinating poem by Leigh Hunt. He seems to be a favorite as far as ICSE is concerned because there was a poem about Ben Adam by Leigh Hunt earlier in Treasure Trove textbook as well. So we will be going through this poem in great detail, line by line, word by word, as well as the thematic explanation. Okay, so sit back and relax. You will understand, I assure you, every bit of this poem. So let's first take a look at what this poem is all about, and then we will get into the explanation. It'll make it easier for you. Okay, so you can see this, The Glove and the Lions. What is it about the poet? Because it's always better, and I always advise my students to read the content which is put in the box before the poem so that you get an idea about the background of the poet, and that helps you understand the context in which a particular story or poem has been written. So Leigh Hunt was a British romantic poet. Okay, that's what he was known as, a British romantic poet, essayist, as well as a critic. There have been many romantic poets, basically poets who wrote either about nature or about human emotions in a positive light. And that's the kind of stuff that Leigh Hunt also wrote. Now, he was associated with what was known as the Romantic literary movement of the early 19th century and was a contemporary of these poets who are all known for their kind of brand of poetry, mainly the Romantic poetry, John Keats, Byron, and Shelley. The Romantic literary movement emphasized what? It emphasized on individualism, emotion, and nature poetry. Okay, so these were things which the Romantic poetry and poets emphasized on. And Leigh Hunt's poetry often reflected these romantic ideals, and it featured themes of love, nature, and social justice. Please remember these aspects because in the long format questions, sometimes you can get a question where you could include these kind of aspects and themes in order to make your answer look that much better. Now, The Glove and the Lions was first published in 1828, just as a context, and it is set against a medieval backdrop. Now, it is not a very modern kind of a story. It's a story of a king, what a king is actually witnessing, and courage, valor, gallantry are prized virtues in that kind of a medieval world. And it is a slightly humorous kind of poem, though it is also satirical in its own way. Now, the sidelight, interesting point that you may be interested in knowing is that Leigh Hunt's extreme political and social stances, which he published in his newspaper, led to 2 years that he spent behind bars in prison. Now, what is it about the poem? It tells a story. Basic story kya hai? It tells a story of a noble woman, okay, and of an aristocratic kind of class. What she does is she drops her glove, yani ki dastana, into the ring where two lions are there. Okay, this is in ancient Rome. And thereby she's challenging the man who is interested in her to retrieve the glove for her from the place where the two lions are actually there. So it is fraught with risk. It is, obviously has danger to his life, but he still does it. So the theme of the poem, it revolves around the themes of love, of courage, and the nature of chivalry. What is chivalry? Is when a particular person, generally a man, does something for a woman. It is known as the sign of a chivalrous gentleman. Okay, so that's what this person does. In fact, let me show you this image so that you get an idea. Of course, please ignore all these other guys who seem to be inside the ring. They are not supposed to be in the ring. Inside the ring, it's only the lions. Okay, and somewhere in the crowd, King Francis is sitting, and one of the noble woman, she drops her glove somewhere here, and she expects her lover to go and retrieve it and get it back for her, despite having huge risk because of the two ferocious lions who are there in the ring. As I said, please ignore all these guys. These guys are not meant to be there. Okay, this is the image, could not kind of cut them out. Okay, so just so that you get an idea about what we are really talking about. So this is a Colosseum, which kind of where everybody will be able to see. It's like a cricket stadium where everyone will be able to see what's happening in the center. So what really happens in the poem? What is the setting of the poem? It is set in a royal court in an amphitheater of this kind of King Francis. It opens with a dangerous spectacle of two lions fighting for the amusement of the king and his court, all the people, the nobles. And this sets the stage for the kind of reckless means irresponsible behavior. And that's what the poem will explore. What does the lady do? She throws a challenge. The lady is motivated by pride. Arey, he loves me, so he has to prove his love for me. Let me see how much he loves me. So she wants to test her lover. Okay, his bravery, his courage. And therefore, she throws the glove into the lion pit. And the action is obviously reckless because by doing so, she's putting her lover's life at risk. And that's a Count. Count is a title in those days. And the lady is aware of Count de Lorch's affection for her. So what does a Count do? He perhaps out of pride, Arey, mere ko challenge kiya, I need to do this for the lady love. And therefore also to maintain his image, he jumps into the pit, retrieves the glove. Now the action is obviously brave. Otherwise, who would dare to do that when two ferocious lions are just a few feet away? But then he's also probably driven by external pressure. What will people think of me? What will this lady think of me? That, oh, I say I love her, but I'm not willing to sacrifice. I'm not willing to do this act of bravery and courage for her sake. So that's what motivates him to do this rather reckless action. And the ending is that the Count, the person, the male, he retrieves the glove, but he throws back in absolute disdain because he's disgusted by what the lady did. He retrieved the glove, but he was completely irritated, repulsed, and very disdainful of what she had done because she wanted to test him without thinking that she would actually be putting his life at such extreme risk. So she shows a lack of true affection. He shows a lack of affection for her, even for her, from her sake. She's only testing him in order to feel good herself. Ki dekho, look at me, for my sake, he's even willing to take this kind of a risk. And what she's doing is emotional manipulation. What she's doing is emotional manipulation, and that he absolutely resents and dislikes. So he throws the glove back at her, and that's a sign of what he actually feels for her at that point in time. Now, King Francis is actually watching the entire incident. So he applauds, he praises what the Count did because he interprets. The King Francis is the one who interprets it. He says it is not a failure of love, but it is a rejection. Please use this in your answers. That's why I take the effort of writing these themes so that it's easy for you to understand. Themes baad mein karenge after we discuss the poem, but to tell you what's going to happen in the poem. So please use these sentences as a failure, not as a failure of love, but as a rejection of the lady's dangerous challenge that bordered on vanity. That is, she's feeling very vain about herself, that I'm so good that someone is willing to take this kind of a risk for my sake. So that's what this poem is all about. So the poem ends with the king's comment that it was not love but vanity that set such a challenging task. And the moral of the poem, therefore, is that love should not be tested with such dangerous and reckless challenges. Reckless is a word you should definitely use. So the poem thus suggests that the lady's test and the Count's response to what she had done were both foolish, and they could have led to a very negative outcome. Just imagine if the lions had pounced on him and torn him apart. So the poet is also making a statement that, you don't need to stereotype men in order to show their love for a woman. Don't need to show courage. They don't need to show this kind of foolish bravery. They don't need to be stereotyped as macho creatures. Okay, that they need to prove this in order to say that, oh, I indeed love you. There are many other ways of showing love for the person you love, right? You don't really need to show your macho behavior in order to do so. So let's now get to the poem. I hope you have understood the basic context and the overall outline of the poem. Let's now get into line by line, word by word explanation of the poem. Now, the setting may seem a little outlandish a little because it's a medieval setting, as I said, because it transports us into another era. So the king is described as a haughty king. What does a haughty king mean? Haughty king means someone who is extremely warm and friendly in behavior. Okay. And he's also a very good natured kind of a person, a good natured, lively kind of a person. That's what is meant by haughty king. Now, he loved a royal sport. What is meant by a royal sport? Please keep taking down notes. It will be really helpful. Better than any workbook you can find. इस बात की मैं guarantee देता हूँ. Okay, I give a guarantee for this. You will not find such detailed explanation in any workbook that you pick up from the market. A royal sport is a pastime or entertainment sport for the royalty, which the kings and people associated with the kings love to see. So here the reference is what? What is the royal sport that he's enjoying? He's enjoying the lion fight. Lion is the king of the jungle. So the king wants to see two lions fight. That is the royal sport being spoken about here. The occurrence, and one day as his lions fought, sat looking on the court. So here the reference is to one particular day because the king is known for his love of hunting and watching such royal sports. He's seated in the viewing stand, which I just showed you in the photograph, and watching the lions fight. Who are in the audience? Who else is there at that place in the court? The nobles fill the benches and the ladies in their pride. Now, who else is there? The nobles and the ladies are there also watching it. Okay. Now, these are the aristocracy, along with the king, the upper class of that particular kingdom. Among them, among the nobles is this person called Count de Loche. Okay. Count is a title. Okay. And this is his name. With one for whom he sighed. Now it says that he was sitting near a lady. I mean, a lady was also there in that group for who he had extremely strong feelings, in the sense that he was in love with her. Sighed conveys the very romantic feelings that he felt for that particular lady. Okay. The poet says, and truly it was a gallant, it was a gallant thing to see that crowning show. So the poet says that it was a gallant, means it was a heroic thing to see the spectacular sight. The crowning show is that it was a very spectacular sight of valor and love and a king above. So the king is there, valor is there, and you already spoken about love, and the royal beast below. The royal beast, the lion is the king of the jungle, hence it is royal fighting. So you are seeing all these elements inside that court. Okay, the royal beast fighting, the king there, you are seeing the expression of love, and it is a royal sport full of valor. Now, the description of the scene in that first stanza, it kind of emphasizes what? It emphasizes one, I'll keep writing the words out here so that it's easy for you to note it down. The grandeur. It's a very grand kind of a spectacle. There is also a lot of excitement because you want to see what happens when two ferocious lions fight with each other. It is portrayed as a magnificent display of courage, love, and royal power. He kind of contrasts the nobility and the grace of the spectators because they are upper class, very refined in their behavior, in the way they look, the way they dress, etc. With the contrast is between that gentleness with the wild and beastly nature of the two lions. So it's in terms of the visual contrast, please make a note of it. In terms of the visual contrast, in the court, you will see people looking very sophisticated, looking extremely rich, looking extremely genteel, looking extremely proper. And in the ring, you are seeing two wild beasts who are having a go at each other. You understand? So this is a visual contrast. There is also some kind of a contrast, some kind of a juxtaposition between the external spectacle of power, The two lions have power. I'm talking about the visual contrast, yes, but there is also some kind of a juxtaposition. Juxtaposition is that there is some kind of a similarity in the sense that the lions have power, wild power, beastly power. Outside also there is power because the king represents power. He is also the external spectacle of power. The nobles also represent power of some kind, right? The power to achieve something, the power to do something. They are also supposed to be brave men. And that is the external emotions. The internal emotion is that of the love of the count for the lady who is also seated there. So there is an external emotion of bravery. There is the internal emotion of love, which is why here it says valor, which is the external emotion. What you're seeing love, which is an internal emotion expressed by this particular count. So that's why I said it is kind of highlighting themes of courage, of love, and the entire grandeur of the royal court. Understood? Great. This is your hashtag. Okay. Ramped and rode, stanza number 2. Ramped and roared the lions with horrid laughing jaws. Now, ramped means to move in a very threatening kind of manner, in a very menacing manner. You know, in a threatening and a menacing manner. When you move like that, it kind of conveys the aggression of the two beasts, the two lions. Horrid laughing, roared, you know, when they roar, the heart of the lion. The horrid laughing jaws, what does it mean? It is kind of conveying the imagery of the two lions with their mouths open, revealing their sharp teeth, making it seem as if they are laughing. Okay, so horrid, because the sight of two lions with their extremely sharp molars and premolars laughing is not a very pleasant kind of sight. You would shudder, right? So it's a horrid kind of sight. The laughing jaws, you know, it's almost like the jaws have been personified. The use of personification as if the jaws, and it kind of is using jaws to convey the lions also. Okay, so that's another poetic device. So when you are using one particular part of the body to convey the entire person, in this case the lion. Horrid because it's a terrifying sight. They bit, they glared, gave blows like beams. Gave blows like beams is because wooden beams, if you know, especially at that time, were used for construction activity. Wooden beams, logs of wood, beams, they were used for construction activity. Okay. And they are meant to be strong to bear the weight of the building. When you use them as beams, okay, from the ceiling to the floor, they're holding the weight of the building. So they're supposed to be extremely strong to hold the weight of the entire structure. So here he's using gave blows like means he's using a simile. So he's making use of a simile to compare the powerful strikes of the lions to that of the beams. A simile always uses the word as and like. I'm sure you know that, right? So he's using a simile out here. A wind went with their paws. What does it mean? It means how they moved their paws. Panjong, how they actually move. So the wind emphasizes the power behind the paw. You know, when they move it, there is almost the force of the wind. When they move it, it's a very heavy kind of a body part as far as the lion is concerned. Then with wallowing might and stifled roar, they rolled on one another. Wallowing means that when mammals roll about in mud or in water, here it is part, I mean, that's when the word wallowing is used, when mammals roll about in mud or in water. But here it is used to convey the action in that pit, which there must be mud out there. So that's why the action. So he has used the word wallowing out here. It's part of the action in the pit. Stifled roar. Now, stifled roar refers to a roar which is muffled. Yani ki it is not a full-throated roar. it is a little bit of a muffled kind of a roar. It is suppressed in some way. So here it is suggesting that the roar of the lions is perhaps not as clear as it would be perhaps in a jungle, where it is an unrestricted kind of an environment, right? In the jungle there is nobody, in the forest there is nobody, he's the king of the jungle. So in the jungle, the roar of the lion would not be muffled or restricted in any way. Here it seems to be slightly muffled, which is why he has used the word stifled. Okay, this could be because the lions are engaged in very close combat. They're very close to each other, so they are not able to roar as the way they would inside a jungle. They are also rolling and tumbling over each other. They are wallowing at the same time, rolling in the mud, and perhaps their voice is getting drowned. Another reason could be because in the court with so many people watching, they also must be making a lot of noise, like it happens inside a cricket stadium. So their noises, their roar may also be getting a bit drowned by the sound around in the court. So all these reasons could be contributing to why the voice is a little stifled. The roar is a little stifled. So bellowing, might, and stifled roar, if you look at it together, it kind of conveys what? It conveys the intensity of the battle of the two lions. It conveys the intensity of the battle between the two lions, and they are wallowing, which means they're kind of wrestling in the mud on the ground with such power that their roars are stifled, and they're completely focused on fighting with each other. Okay, I hope you understood till here. Till all the pit with sand and mane was in a thunderous smother. Mane is the reference to the hair on the lion. Okay, it is reference to the hair on the male lion. Was in a thunderous smother. Smother means to suffocate. When you smother someone, it means that you are suffocating someone. You are kind of strangulating someone and suffocating his breath. So thunderous means very loud, suffocating. So this is to describe the very chaotic and the very noisy battle which is taking place between the two lions. So the entire pit is filled with a thunderous smother, which is a combination of roaring of the lions, which is a little stifled, dust from the sand, and the movement of the hair of the two lions. So you see, he's kind of describing in extreme vivid detail about the atmosphere inside the pit. The bloody foam above the bars came whisking through the air. It emphasizes the violence, because when two lions are fighting, obviously they will be biting each other, they'll be using their teeth. So what it is resulting also is in bloodshed, violence. So bloody foam above the bars refers to the violence that is taking place during this duel between the two lions, because there is blood flying, there is also saliva flying and escaping the pit as through the bars as the bees fight with each other. You know, there would be some kind of bars which have been put so that they don't escape the pit. And whisking through the air, it gives you a sense of danger amidst that whole movement, that there is some kind of danger and brutality inside, taking place inside the pit. So whisking conveys a sense of movement. It conveys a sense of danger also. So what is he doing is, by showing you in vivid detail, by telling you in vivid detail about the atmosphere inside the pit, he's preparing us for, what a stupid thing that lady did when she threw that glove into the pit, because this is what is happening inside the pit. So it kind of prepares the reader for a collective gasp. Look at what she has done, kind of a thing. So that's why he's describing this in such vivid detail. So this stanza, said Francis then, "Faith, gentlemen, we are better here than there." Faith is an old-fashioned way to express surprise or to emphasize a point. So all this description is there, and at the end, King Francis kind of breaks the tension, because we are so engrossed in reading what is the atmosphere inside the pit. So he breaks the tension with a humorous comment saying that faith, gentlemen, is almost like surprise. But in order to highlight that the contrast between we are safer here, we are better here. That is, in this place, when we are not in the ring, we are actually safer out here. This is a safe viewing area here, referring to here. This is the safe viewing area. There is the pit that, we wouldn't want to be there. Again, preparing. He's foreshadowing what is likely to happen. So the line indicates the king's recognition of the danger which is posed by the two lions, and his relief at being separated from them by the bars of the pit. Around the pit, there are bars which have been put, which is to keep the people, the men and the women, the nobles and the ladies and the king safe from the lions. So they are in a position of safety, and the the lions which are engaged in combat are representing danger. So what this stanza number 2 does is to emphasize the extreme danger in the pit, and it creates a sense of suspense. It creates a sense of anticipation about what could happen next. So it foreshadows what the count will face later in the poem. Understood till here? Great. Understood? Then the hashtag is Dil Mange SWS. Let's enjoy while we are studying. Stanza number 3. Dear Lord's love overheard the king. Now, in the first stanza, we saw them just mentioned in passing. Okay. Now he gets into their story in stanza 3. The first stanza has described the outside portion. Stanza 2 described the inside pit. Now he gets into the love story and what happens. So he says, Dear Lord's love, that is the lady, overheard the king saying that, oh, we are safer here and not inside there. She was a beauteous, lively dame with smiling lips and sharp, bright eyes, which always seemed the same. So, beauteous is a very old-fashioned, a very archaic way of conveying beautiful. Okay, dame means a woman or a lady. Okay, lady or a woman. Beauteous is an old-fashioned way of saying, it's an archaic term for beautiful. Okay, lively means someone who is a very spirited kind of person, full of spirit. Their eyes are twinkling, and they enjoy life. With smiling lips and sharp, bright eyes. Now, smiling lips convey a very pleasant kind of a persona. Okay, obviously, if you're smiling, it means that you are of a friendly disposition, a pleasant kind of a character. Sharp, bright eyes, which always seem the same, mean it kind of gives you a hint of a slightly manipulative kind of person. Here it conveys friendly. Sharp, bright eyes could be also conveying friendly, but it somehow, when it says which always seem the same, it seems, can every time your eyes can look very bright? No. So if it almost seems as if an effort is put to make them look like that always. So it, in a very subtle manner, he's kind of dropping a slight hint that she could be a little manipulative kind of a person. So she's thinking, she thought the Count, my lover, is brave as brave can be. So she's thinking about her lover's bravery. She has overheard the king's comment and interprets it as a challenge to bravery, that we are all safe here, not there. So she's thinking that perhaps he's talking about a challenge to bravery. So she thinks that the Count is brave and therefore should prove his bravery. So she's also perhaps, thoda yahan pe uska screw deela hai, she's a little foolish. So she says, my brave, so let him prove his bravery. He surely would do wondrous things to show his love of me. So this particular line, line 4 of this particular stanza, this is the first line, 2, 3, and 4. This fourth line is very important. Why is it important? Because here it kind of reveals her self-obsession. She's obsessed with herself, as she thinks that the Count will do wonderful things to show, to prove, to demonstrate that he loves her. Okay, she has obviously huge expectations from her Count that if she throws something into the pit, he will retrieve it for her, even though it may be a worthless thing like a glove, but he would do that for her. So it shows a sense that she's extremely self-obsessed. So this line is very important from the character point of view. One second. One second. Just putting the top of charge. Yeah. So it shows an obsessive, I mean, she's very obsessed with herself, not with anyone else, but with herself. So she now thinks in line 5, king, ladies, lovers, all look on, the occasion is divine. So she thinks that the moment, that particular moment when the lions are there inside the pit and everyone else is safe, this is a moment, this is an occasion. She thinks of it as an occasion. Occasion means it's slightly flippant in its nature. Flippant means, you're not taking it very seriously. Okay, you're treating it as an occasion. Your occasion to indicate her own sense of self-importance, her own sense of grandeur, that I am so important that this man who loves me will do anything for my sake. So she thinks that this is an occasion, this is an opportunity to showcase her sense of importance. Not, I mean, his demonstrating his love for her is only a device, is only a bahana, it's only an excuse to demonstrate what? That she is so important. That she is so important. You want to achieve the first position. So someone says that if you work hard for the next 10 days, you will achieve it, right? So you are, the working hard is the effort that you put in, but that's not the main thing. That is the main prize. So to demonstrate, so that is what is important. In this case, the lady feels that she is important, and therefore this is one way to demonstrate how important she is, and that displays her sense of self-obsession. So she sees the gathering of the king, the nobles, and the ladies as an occasion to show off her own importance by using the count's bravery. Okay, divine is here is used to express not something related to religion or God, but to talk about but to talk about excellence. Okay, the occasion is excellent. I will drop my glove to prove his love. Great glory will be mine. And the last line again exposes what she thinks about herself, as she does the reckless act of dropping the glove only for her own great glory. She wants to achieve great glory, okay, and therefore she decides to drop the glove to prove his love. He will prove his love, but this is what is her final goal, that great glory will be mine. So she is focusing on this very nonsensical and a very trivial and non-serious act to test the love of the count, because she thinks that it will elevate her, as the act of retrieving the glove for the lady's sake will show that, oh, look at her, she's worthy of such love. People will not say, "Arey, what a brave guy." No, they'll think she must be worthy of so much of love that he has risked his life for her sake. So the stanza exposes the flaw in the character of the lady. Please use this phrase. Flaw in the character of the lady. That uske basic character ढीला है. उसका character में गड़बड़ी है. Okay. So she's focusing on appearances. She's focusing on public validation. What does it mean? That she wants people to think about her and that she will achieve great glory because people will think very highly of her. She's not showing any genuine love or concern for the safety of the count, and her impulsive act is what sets the stage of the central conflict in this particular poem. Now, you see, it's also, as I said, set in a particular medieval time where gestures of bravery or gestures of devotion to a lady were equated with honor. But it is a very faulty kind of an assumption because it puts the life of the count at risk. So let's move to the last stanza, stanza 4. She dropped her glove. Now, dropped her glove conveys a very deliberate action. Dropped her glove. It was not like, dropping her glove by mistake. It was a deliberate action. She thought about it in order to achieve great glory. So it's a very deliberate action done to provoke her lover. Ki, aap sabit karo. You say you love me. Now prove it for me. Okay. It is like, she's manipulating the situation. It's an emotional and a very dishonest kind of a manipulation that she indulges in, because she wants to satisfy her own sense of inflated ego, her own sense of self-importance, because she's chasing great glory. So it's a test because of which she looked at him and smiled. Now, this smile is almost sounds like a smirk. It's not a genuine smile of happiness or of conveying love. It's a smile which is kind of throwing a challenge at the Count, that prove your love for me right now. He bowed and in a moment leapt among the lions wild. So when he bows, it also tells you the dynamics of their relationship, that she's the one who is wielding the control over the Count. When you bow before someone, it means she's the one who is controlling his mind, his emotions, right? So that kind of tells you what is the nature of the relationship between the Count and the lady he loves. And perhaps without thinking, he jumped in because he's under pressure, because she has smiled in a particular way. He bowed and then recklessly, without thinking, he leapt among the lions who are obviously wild beasts. The leap was quick. The return was quick. He has regained his place. So he's quick. Thankfully, he's quick, and that kind of conveys what? That he is very agile, his sense of agility, and he manages to retrieve the glove quickly. The word quick, repeated twice, is very deliberate. Okay. It is to convey that sense of speed, because obviously he can't be kind of doing it stealthily, waiting for an opportunity. No, he jumps in and jumps out immediately. Surgical strike. Okay, so his action was, however, and listen to this part carefully, his action was not driven by love. He throws the glove. Once he regains his place back on his seat, he threw the glove, but not with love, right in the lady's face. He throws back the glove at her face. That shows that he insults the lady, right? He throws the glove, but not with love, at the lady's face. This act conveys what? What does it suggest? It suggests anger. It suggests bitterness. It suggests resentment, because he's resentful about the way she has manipulated his love for her. She knows that he will do that, and she decided to put his life at risk. So this conveys a very different emotion from the first stanza, when he sighed for the lady. Sighed is like, you look at someone you love and you do this, you feel good about it. But here he's disgusted at what she did. So now that's a very different emotion. So you may get a question as to contrast the emotion between how the Count felt in the first stanza and the last stanza. So in the first stanza, the word used is sighed, but now the word used is threw the glove right in the lady's face. So please use as many keywords and key phrases from the poem. Use all this explanation that I have conveyed to you, explained to you in so much of detail, so that you get full marks. So at that time, by God, the king reacts. He says, by God, said Francis, rightly done. He approves of what the Count did. So everyone has seen what he did. He approves of what the Count did. He said, rightly done, and he rose from where he sat. So the king responds to the move and reacts positively, saying, rightly done. Because he has seen that the Count has defied. He has shown an act of defiance against the manipulative behavior of the lady. And in the last line, he rose, means he feels so moved that he rose, and he says, he delivers the real final message of the poem, the main message of the poem. he recognizes that the lady's challenge, no love, quoth he, means said he. Quoth he means said he. But vanity sets love a task like that. So he says that the lady's love was not motivated by love, it was motivated by vanity. Vanity means pride, and it is a very negative kind of a serve. Oh, you are very vain. Vain is the word vanity comes from the word vain. Okay. So he's saying that, it is because the lady was vain, that's why she manipulated by setting a test like that for the count. And it was a very selfish desire for personal great glory. So the king's line conveys that he's completely disapproving of what the lady actually did. So this line by King Francis, reveals the emptiness of the test which has been put forth by the lady. And it is, her vanity has a very destructive quality about it. It is something which could have destroyed the count, and eventually even she will not be happy, and no one will be ever happy in love with her because she's so full of herself. So the count's action, while it was taking a huge risk, it ultimately results in a rejection of her manipulation, that while I have done what you asked me to do or what you challenged me to do, and thereby I proved my courage and bravery, but I reject a manipulative woman like you. I do not feel in love with you anymore. So the king's final statement, it reinforces the theme of the poem. That true love, listen to this carefully, that true love should never be driven by reckless displays or a desire for public validation that the public should support. How do I this thing is? There are many people who are in love, and they put photographs on Instagram or Facebook or different forms of social media because you're looking and seeking public validation. Sometimes that may be at the risk of your own privacy. You may be putting yourself or someone else at risk, but you are doing it because you want to get 1000 likes and feel very good about it. You want to seek public validation. That may not necessarily be the most correct thing to do. Okay, so with this we come to the end of the explanation of this poem. I hope you have understood it clearly. इतना डिटेल में कोई नहीं बताएगा. What are the poetic devices which have been used? One, of course, is the imagery in the second stanza, the visual, the acoustic, every detailed imagery that Leigh Hunt has used when he's talking about the lions. The simile I mentioned about when he's using the word like. The metaphor, a wind went with their paws. Now that is the use of a metaphor because it is suggesting speed, it is suggesting agility. Personification, I already mentioned horrid laughing jaws. Alliteration, when you use the same consonant, ramped and road, that's a use of an alliteration. Hyperbole is the reference to the blows like beams, the wooden beams, that is, is kind of exaggerating it by saying that, it is as good as the wooden beams that hold up an entire building. The rhyme scheme which has been used in this particular poem, what is the rhyme scheme? The rhyme scheme is AA, BB, CC, DD. This is the rhyme scheme. The language used is very archaic at many places. There is also dramatic irony which has been used in the poem because the lady expects her the count to retrieve the glove and showcase it as a proof of her love for her. But the disdainful reaction given by the count is the surprise ending. Otherwise, you could have also ended with he came to her, he hugged her, and there was and they lived happily ever after kind of a thing. But the twist in the ending is what surprises the reader. Now now that you have gone through the entire poem, let me now quickly go through the themes of the poem. Please take them down. Okay. The first theme is that of chivalry and honor. The poem explores the concept of chivalry, where knights and suitors, nobles of this kind are expected to perform brave and honorable deeds to win the favor of the lady. So in the poem, the lady's dropping of her glove into the lion's pit or the den is a test of the suitor's courage. Show that you really are brave and willingness to risk their lives for her honor. The second theme is that of love and devotion. The act of retrieving the glove becomes a symbol of the suitor's love and devotion to the lady. They are willing to face great danger to prove their affection for her. And this theme highlights the lengths to which, to any extent to which people will go for the sake of their love. The third theme is that of risk and courage. The poem also explores the themes of risk and courage because they face the very, daunting tasks, a very tough task of confronting ferocious lions to retrieve the glove. The willingness of the Count to face the danger demonstrates his bravery and willingness to take risk for the sake of his love. The fickleness of fortune. Another theme that emerges in the poem is the fickleness of fortune, because the outcome of the contest between the two lions and also here is very, very unpredictable. Can he come out safely from the lion's pit? That's we don't know. And the bravest and the most skilled suitor may not necessarily be the one who succeeds in retrieving the glove. Sometimes you may need a more clever kind of a mind. So this theme underscores the unpredictable nature of life as well as fate. So these are the themes which have been explored in this particular poem. So I hope you have understood what exactly this poem is trying to convey by Leigh Hunt. And if you have understood all the points and word by word meaning that I've conveyed, you should be able to navigate any question, face any question that is asked in the examination. Thank you very much. Tata, bye bye. God bless you.